All right, hello everyone, and welcome to our March Lunch and Learn member webinar. My name is Samantha Hunnick, and I am the programs coordinator here with Preservation Texas. We are very excited for today's webinar about saving the Cindy Walker House in Mexia. Before we start, I wanted to let you all know that this webinar is being recorded and that this recording is going to go on your your online preservation account portal, so you can rewatch it later. And also we will have a Q&A session after the presentation, so feel free to drop any questions in the Q&A feature at the bottom of your Zoom toolbar, and we'll address those at the end. Your presenter for today is Lindsay. She is an Emmy award-winning journalist who grew up in Mexia, and she's spent over 20 years in TV news, and she is the director, writer, and producer of the documentary film You Don't Know Me, the Cindy Walker story. So check that out. She's also the founder of the Cindy Walker Foundation, with the mission to save Cindy's historic home and studio in Mexia and preserve her songwriting legacy. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Lindsay.
Thank you, Sam, and thank you so much to Preservation Texas. They have been huge partners with us, and we appreciate everything that they've done because their support has absolutely been invaluable. And hopefully everybody can see the screen that I'm sharing. I put this presentation together and titled it "The Ace Behind the Kings, Preserving the Life and Legacy of Cindy Walker." And just a fun fact to share, we are in production right now for a documentary film on Cindy, and that is her real writing studio. As we were filming part of the documentary in her house, that's her real desk and all of her real items. The typewriter, however, is a replica because the real one is in the Country Music Hall of Fame. And as Sam introduced me, my name is Lindsay Liepman, and I am the executive director of the Cindy Walker Foundation. I've spent more than 20 years all over the country as a television news anchor and reporter. And finally, my career brought me back home to Texas. I was doing an interview with Ray Benson of Asleep at the Wheel for just a local news story. And when he found out I was from Mexia, Texas, we had a fun conversation about Cindy Walker, who also adopted Mexia as her hometown. And I said to him, Ray, I really wish somebody would do a documentary on Cindy because not enough people know about her. And he looked at me and said, why don't you? And I gave him about 100 reasons why not me. But finally in 2021, I decided to take a short pause, about a year and a half off of doing the news, and turn my attention toward telling Cindy's story. And my very first order of business was going back home to my hometown in Mexia. I live in the Austin area now, but I went back home to Mexia and announced that I was going to be doing this film. I really wanted to be able to track down Cindy's family, the Walkers, who no longer live in Mexia. And I was fruitful in doing that, and they gave me permission to go ahead and start the documentary. So we began in 2021. As part of that, I became an accidental preservationist because in no way was I planning to start a foundation or save Cindy's house. I went with a family friend to go check out Cindy's house. It's where she lived from 1954 until her passing. And when I saw the state of the home, I had a lot of questions. It was abandoned. It was in disrepair. I didn't really know what was going on with the house, but I felt like it was important to Cindy's story and to just what she did in music and songwriting, and also from right there, from her home in Mexia, it was important to save that home. And so that is how we started this journey. Um, as I titled this, The Ace Behind the Kings, here's the explanation. Some of y'all may be very familiar with the Waylon Jennings song that no matter what's going on in Austin, Bob Wills is still the king. And so I like to say that she's the ace behind the kings, writing so many of those American standards that Bob Wills and the Texas Playboys and Eddie Arnold, Ernest Tubb, all of these great kings of country music sang and got to the top of the charts. Some of the her fellow songwriters had this to say about her. Harlan Howard said she was the greatest living songwriter of country music. He said that at her Hall of Fame induction in 1997. Willie Nelson recorded an entire album of Cindy's songs, and he was quoted as saying, "About the only person I'm in awe of is Cindy Walker. There's no one quite like her, and if it wasn't for her music, we couldn't have made ours." And Fred Foster, who was a producer that she collaborated quite a bit with, especially when she started writing those Roy Orbison hits, he had to say this about her: Cindy Walker's never written a bad song in her life. I'm especially glad at the timing of being able to give this presentation because the 19th anniversary of her passing was just a few days ago. She was born in July 20th, 1917 and passed away March 23rd of 2006. And it's also Women's History Month. So it's a great time to continue to remember Cindy's legacy. All right, just for fun, I want you to take a look at this picture. This is one of the pictures never before seen that we discovered inside of Cindy's home. You can see her kind of front and center, but can you spot any of the other famous artists in the crowd? I won't ask for any feedback because I can't hear you if you're talking to yourself, but I want to point your attention to the very back of this picture. And next, right underneath the flower kind of centerpiece that's on that fireplace, there's Willie Nelson, kind of looking like, get me out of this room. Next to Cindy as well is Whisperin' Bill Anderson. Buck Owens is in this picture. Jim Reeves is in this picture. A lot of those artists that were very instrumental in creating what became known as the Nashville sound. Some of Cindy's career highlights, if you're not familiar with her, is that she had 10 top 10 hits in 5 consecutive decades from the 1940s until her last top 10 hit was in the 1980s. And that was Ricky Skaggs redid the Webb Pierce hit, I Don't Care. She wrote songs and appeared in the first music videos known as Soundies in the 1940s. She wrote her first song at 12 years old called Dusty Skies, and that was later recorded by Bob Wills. She appeared in Hollywood films and wrote songs for major TV shows and motion pictures. She wrote more than 500 recorded songs, many more on top of that, and we'll get to that in just a minute. She was inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame in 1997 as the first female songwriter inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame. And I know the Country Music Hall of Fame just announced their 2025 inductees just a couple of days ago, or I believe it was yesterday. And it's very, very difficult to get into the Country Music Hall of Fame, but as solely a songwriter, 10, if not 100 times more difficult. And Cindy did it back in 1997. And in fact, the graphic of the medallion, that is her medallion that we found and recovered from her home, which is wonderful that we saved it. She was also the first female board member of the Country Music Association, and she testified twice before Congress for songwriters' rights, once in the 1950s when they were considering the jukebox bill. She felt that songwriters should get paid when a song that she wrote was being played in the jukeboxes, which was very popular at the time. And then we're so pleased and so grateful that she was posthumously inducted into the National Songwriters Hall of Fame in 2024, and that was a high point for all of us in the work we've been doing for the last couple of years. So who sang Cindy's songs? Everybody. From Willie Nelson to Merle Haggard, Johnny Cash, and they were such close friends that he named one of his daughters after her. He had a Cindy Cash. Bob Wills also named one of his daughters after Cindy as well. Bing Crosby got her first cut with Lone Star Trail, and there's a wonderful story that Cindy tells about that. Jim Reeves, even Michael Bublé, Cher, Bette Midler, Loretta Lynn, Eddie Arnold got the first cut of one of her most popular songs, which is You Don't Know Me. Roy Orbison sang Dream Baby. And you can see Ernest Tubb, Ray Charles. Like speaking of You Don't Know Me, that really was one of her biggest hits. And Ray Charles cut that again in 1962. And then Mickey Gilley also had another hit in the 80s on You Don't Know Me. Some of her other top hits were Blue Canadian Rockies, Bubbles in My Beer, Cherokee Maiden, Don't Be Ashamed of Your Age, of course, Dusty Skies, Take Me in Your Arms and Hold Me, Sugar Moon. I mean, the list truly goes on and on. One thing that I like to share about Cindy, in Nashville these days, almost every single song has a co-writer. They will go into a room with several songwriters and try to come up with something. But Cindy wrote all of her songs by herself. She used to say that Picasso doesn't have a co-painter. She would wake up every morning at about 5 a.m., get her black cup of coffee, and go up to her writer's studio, which, if you can see behind me, is this little room right here with the AC unit. And she would start writing on that pink typewriter that she hand painted. If there is a co-writer or a co-credit listed on any of her songs, it's because that person gave her the idea for the song. And that includes Eddie Arnold gave her the idea for You Don't Know Me, but she would write all of those songs by herself. And according to BMI, that song, You Don't Know Me, has now surpassed 6 million terrestrial airplays. So on the radio, that song has been played 6 million times, which is truly incredible. Here's Cindy talking about songwriting in her own words.
Well, I never had any other idea in my entire life that I wanted to do except write. Do you know a song that they're still playing now called Dusty Skies? I wrote that when I was 12 years old. And they were looking for songs to record in Hollywood then, all the country artists and everything. And they'd come from Nashville then to Hollywood to record. And so I was writing for Roy and Dale and for the Sons of the Pioneers. And I was having some fairly good success, don't you see? And of course, the Lone Star Trail was on the charts. It charted. And so I decided, well, I've got to have a recording by Bob Wills. He's one of the hottest things on the charts, at that time. He had San Antonio Rose, and he was playing all over the country, and so I didn't know how to get in touch with him. So I went to Decca. I was recording for Decca then. I said, how do I get in touch with Bob Wills? And they said, well, he's not here. He's in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I said, well, do you know how I could reach him? I said, I want to get a song by him. And they said, well, just send what you want to Kane's Academy in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And so I had Dusty Skies. You remember me telling you about that? And I went home. I said, well, I'm going to write something.
Looks like our video is trying to catch up just a little bit. This is a Grammy Foundation oral history interview. I won't wait for the video to catch up because it looks like it's lagging a little bit. But you can watch, there's two clips that are available on the internet. One of her talking about songwriting, and there's one of her talking about You Don't Know Me. So we'll move on to the next slide. I know it was trying to catch up a little bit, but that could drive you crazy waiting for that to catch up. But I encourage everybody to Google that on YouTube. We have that full interview. It was with a journalist out of Nashville, Bob Orman, and we do have that full interview, and we'll be using part of that in the documentary that's in production, and it's a complete gem to hear her telling some of these stories. So moving on, in 2022, a time capsule truly was discovered in Cindy's home, and the work to restore it began. So backtracking a little bit, my first thing that I did was go to Mexia and say I wanted to do this documentary. But then upon discovery that the home was in disrepair, I knew that truly we needed to do something to save the home. So we started the foundation and the Walkers. She didn't have any children. She had three nieces, and two of her nieces are part of this effort and have joined us in trying to save the home and tell Cindy's story. We had a turning point as an organization very early on. Preservation Texas put us on their most endangered places list. And that was huge for us, being able to kind of raise awareness as to what was going on. And then in 2024, Sam let me know about the National Trust for Historic Preservation's 11 Most list, which is the National Endangered Places list. And we are so grateful that they included us on that 2024 list. This is a picture of a lot of folks in town cutting the ribbon on the restoration that was underway. At that point, we had fundraised enough to begin some of those critical repairs. And so it was a great opportunity for our community to come together. And we call that a turning point because it really allowed more people to learn about our story, specifically a lot of media. I'm in local media, but it's been invaluable for our story to be on NPR, American Songwriter, different publications like Billboard Magazine, as well as we'll have a story with a day tripper coming out on PBS in May. Chet Garner came out to check out the property. And so that'll be airing in May. And then we also had JB Sauceda, the brand new Texas country reporter who came out. We also were really blessed to have Bob and Kelly Phillips, who Bob was the Texas country reporter for over 50 years. And he now has a podcast. And so he came out as well. And every time we share the story, it keeps her legacy alive, and it lets people know that what she did, the history that this woman made in this house in Mexia, still matters today. And I'm just glad to be able to share part of that with you. So I'm going to share the amazing, and hopefully our video won't lag. If it does, once again, you can go on YouTube and watch it on your own time. But we're thrilled that they came out. So let's watch part of that. It all goes to me to growing up here in the Mexia and knowing that I was cared for and I was loved in this town. I mean, everybody wants to be from somewhere. You know, everybody wants to feel like their life matters or they have a purpose in life. And I always tell my husband, like, every time I hit that city limit sign, I feel good. Because I know who I am when I'm here. You know, you can lose yourself in this world. And I think Cindy Walker knew who she was being here.
The collective memory of a small town can be a funny, fragile thing. Fixtures that
Lindsay, you're
town
muted.
to become a journalist. And so we all knew who Cindy was, but we let her do her thing. People in my head didn't really bother her. This town took such good care of my family, of my single mom, my brother and I. And so when I realized something needed to be done that would pour back into the town of Mexia, I felt like I was at the right place at the right time to do the work. And it means so much to me because this town means so much to me. And so that's where my motivation comes from. I never knew Cindy Walker. I feel like I know her now.
I can't really call Cindy Walker an unsung hero because the words she penned, melodies she crafted have all been sung for decades. You don't know me, it's all your fault. Dream Baby. The song she wrote rose to the top of the charts with versions by legends like Willie Nelson, Ray Charles, Bob Wills, and Roy Orbison, just to name a few. But the domain of a songwriter tends to be behind the scenes.
I think her entire catalog is an Easter egg because you're like, Cindy Walker? And she kind of wanted it that way. She didn't want to be the star. She wanted the music to be the star, the song to be the star. What Cindy Walker did was not being done by anyone at the time. I like to call her the ace behind the kings. So if Bob Wills is the king, as Waylon Jennings famously sang in his song, Bob Wills is still the king, then it's Cindy Walker who is the ace. And I wouldn't call her a queen because she was so smart in everything that she did, business-wise, and the way that she wrote songs, and she did it all in that room. And this is the journey that Cindy Walker would make every morning with her cup of coffee to write songs.
When Cindy Walker wasn't pitching her songs to the stars in Hollywood and Nashville, she was busy writing music every morning. Little house in Mexia she shared with her mother.
It was all about her music to her. She didn't care about being famous. And she even, at one point, one of the residents here in Mexia wanted signs out at the edge of town that said home with Cindy Walker. And she was like, no, 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 don't do that. She was a female trailblazing songwriter. But she would say, no, 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 songwriter. She didn't think about the fact that she was a woman. She just knew that she did this thing well, songwriting. And it didn't matter if she was a man or a woman because folks were going to come to her because she could write a hit song. Where we're sitting, Gene Autry would come to visit her, Bob Wills, Willie Nelson, Ernest Tubb. They would pull their tour buses right out front and come in and talk to Cindy and see if she had any songs for them.
No kidding.
This is really cool. We were able to find her Rolodex.
Oh my God.
And it is a who's who, if you want to read some of the names, but, you know, Ray Charles is in there, Willie Nelson is in there, Gene Autry is in there, and she would call all of these people directly.
Your city passed in 2006. She left the home to a beloved friend and caretaker. After she passed, the very same house where Cindy wrote so many country music classics began to fall into disrepair.
Welcome to Cindy's living room. So we formed the Cindy Walker Foundation to raise the money to purchase the house and then to start the restoration work. And a lot of people said, I don't think you can save the house. And I said, we should at least try.
What's been the response from the people here in Maya, who wanted to help or have been turned on to what you're doing?
Yeah, I think at first people were very skeptical. They're like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm Miss MHS 1999, okay? I can get things done around here. I think we turned the corner when we raised the funds to buy the house. People thought, okay, they've got the support to be able to buy the house. Now will they have the support to be able to fix it? And so I think with every challenge that we just kept moving past, people kind of see the proof is in the pudding.
Once Lindsay and the foundation got some momentum, the good news kept coming.
The twist in this story is we thought we were saving the house, but we also ended up saving her never before heard music that was just sitting in there. Her music, her clothing, her awards that were underneath her mattress, because she didn't display it. I mean, if I was inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame, you would see that medallion.
She had that sort of under her mattress.
She had her awards underneath her mattress. She had luggage from when she went out to Hollywood. And we opened up some of that luggage and the music was in there. And so it was incredible. And this is music that if we had not cared enough about the house, we wouldn't have found the music that was in there. Nobody knew it was in there. So it's pretty incredible.
Through Lindsay's journey to save Cindy Walker's house and preserve her legacy, Lindsay has become close with some of Cindy's relatives, making the discovery of the preserved songs all the more powerful.
We were in Nashville with Lindsay and the rest of the crew, and they had just gotten back the tapes that we found in the house. And so Mike says, I'm going to play one of these for you. And he starts playing this song with Cindy singing. And it was pretty moving. I mean, we hadn't heard her voice in a long time.
I know.
I know you kind of got teared up, but it was like, okay, that's Cindy singing. And you immediately could see her and see her guitar. And it was, and then we heard some of the others, but that first song was.
I know, because we hadn't heard her voice in many years.
Lindsay has done so much to make sure Cindy Walker's legacy lives on, but there's still work to do. She has a vision for the future, even as she honors the past.
I see us building songwriter cabins behind Cindy's home so that we can have songwriter retreats out here. So music can be created. So we can have a words and music songwriting camp for kids out here on the property. That's what I see, a place that the community is able to use and where music can fill it again. And so I see it looking like how it looked in 1962 when she had her best year as a songwriter with You Don't Know Me at the top of the charts and Dream Baby at the top of the charts and looking like it did during that time period of her life.
Well, JB did an excellent job, and truly, he said it. He shared our story better than I feel like I could. So we're very thankful to him for sharing that story to all of his viewers. And truly, that's where my heart is. This is my love song back to my hometown of Mexia, and doing everything within my power to help. And he focused a lot on me in that story, but truly you can see our amazing volunteers in these pictures, and a lot of the people who you see who have been helping us along the way, who are on the board or who come out to Cindy Walker Days and all the events that we have. They knew Cindy when she was alive. In fact, Bubba Garver, who is hauling out the trash there, he was one of Cindy's kids. She led the youth choir at the Presbyterian Church. And so in the 1960s, he was a kid and a part of that choir. And you can see so many of the people that have been putting in the sweat equity here. So just a few details to run through before we get to the Q&A. More than 3 tons of trash had to be removed. As you heard in that story, when Cindy passed away, she left the house to Willie Mae Atkinson, her caretaker. And Willie Mae died in 2019, and the home then went to her brother, W.D. Atkinson. Unfortunately, he suffered from a brain injury and had a trash hoarding problem. So when when WD agreed to sell the house to the foundation, there were mounds and mounds of trash that had to be thrown away before we could even see that Cindy's things were still in the house. All of the historic items now have been removed. They are in climate controlled storage. The critical repairs are funded and underway. A 3D scan of the home from Texas A&M's architecture department is planned literally within the next couple of weeks. That will be a very important tool for us, not only with making sure everything's documented, but also with fundraising as well. The high priority repairs, which include the foundation and the roof, need to be funded still. Our contractor is a local contractor. We're trying to keep it as local as we can to Mexia and be able to kind of reinvest all these dollars that we're raising back into our community. Is Scott Condon with Bystone Building Supply. He has restored many historic buildings in Mexia as well. And our estimated total project cost is $1.2 million. And if you look at the bottom right of your screen, you can see Cindy's roses keep coming back. She's beautiful. These are some older pictures of the home from, I believe, the 1990s, possibly. It will be called the Cindy Walker Home and Studio, a community music and art space, have an exhibit space as well. Cindy's writing studio will be preserved more as a museum, to that way people can see what it looked like when she would write her songs there. We'd like to add songwriter cabins to the property. It's on 6 city lots, so there's a lot of space. We also want to have a music studio space where those songwriters that come in can also record their demos. Cindy recorded all of her demos in her house with just the piano that her mother would play. She would play on her guitar, and she was actually gifted a reel-to-reel recorder from Billy Graham. She had a very close friendship with him and was in his first 2 Christian films out in Hollywood. So they had a lifelong friendship. We also want to have a space for songwriter retreats and residency program, a community garden. Ori, her mother, who really was a partner in this music business with her, she tended to the garden, and the grandchildren, who I usually call the nieces, Molly and Jerry, have great memories of, they called her Gran, all of just the vegetables and flowers. And so we'd like to make sure that we have a community garden. And we're also seeking historic designations as we speak. We have some wonderful partners. Henry Mayo out of Brazos County is helping prepare our application in conjunction with the Limestone County Historical Commission for a subject marker that would be outside of the home there in Mexia. And then also board member and historian Gregory Smith is helping to prepare the application for the National Register of Historic Places. If we get that at the level of national significance, that would open up very important, crucial grant funding. So we're hoping that we're successful with that. You can see Cindy painting. One of the things discovered in the house was a painting that she did of the house, which is just incredible. Cindy loved to paint. And I just love kind of that childlike, whimsical side of her that was evident in all of the things we found. It's more than just a house, though. It's also, our work is about leaving a legacy. We're in our 3rd year for Cindy Walker Days, which is a Western swing musical festival that happens in Mexia every year. And it's surrounding the weekend of Cindy's birthday. And so this year it will be July 18th and 19th. This year we're adding a songwriter contest, and we're also adding a 1-day kids camp. And we're very excited about that. Children's music camp and programming is part of the legacy. We also have a songwriter series that kicked off this year, and we do have that in Mexia. Most of our activities are centered in Mexia. However, we also are planning to do fundraisers in Nashville, Austin, Dallas, Fort Worth, other areas to spread the word about Cindy's legacy. We also want to continue to lend our support for songwriters' rights. As you know, with streaming music, it's almost like everything that Cindy was fighting for, today's songwriters are also fighting for. It's very relevant. We also want to create an official Cindy Walker tour in Mexia. Cindy was buried in Mexia. She has a beautiful guitar marker, granite there at the Mexia Cemetery. And there's a beautiful mural. And Linda Archibald, who was the Chamber of Commerce president at the time, was instrumental in getting that mural there. It's a great thing for tourists to come and visit. And then, of course, her church, where her piano is currently. We were able to raise the funds last summer to get her piano completely restored. We did not know if it was going to be able to be played again, and it is. So we're so encouraged by that, and a big thanks to the piano expert, Jesse Bullard, who's local to Mexia, who was able to make that happen. We're also working on creating a scholarship at Belmont University in Nashville in Cindy's name for some up-and-coming songwriters. And then we're also working toward getting her stars on the Nashville Music Walk of Fame, as well as the Hollywood Walk of Fame. We want to make sure that Cindy's name is cemented in history for her contributions. So that concludes my presentation. If you want to learn more, if you want to volunteer, donate, get connected, just go to cindywalkerfoundation.org. You can learn more about cindywalkerdays.com. And we sell our tickets there for the festival. It is a lot of fun. So many great people come out, a lot of musicians, and it's kind of about time that we shared Cindy's story and gave her due. So thank you so much for all your time. And thanks, Sam, for having me out.
Thank you so much, Lindsay. That was such a great presentation. We have some time for questions now. If anybody's got questions, drop those in the Q&A. I don't see any at the moment, but we will wait for a second.
While people are maybe thinking, I can share a little bit more about Cindy's past. Just interrupt me, Sam,
Okay.
If somebody has a question. But Cindy's father died while they were out in Hollywood, and so it really was Cindy and her mom for so many years. They moved back to Texas. So Cindy was born in Mart, but they moved to this house in Mexia because her three nieces lived in Mexia with her brother. She had one older brother. And so that was her choice. She felt like she could write songs anywhere. She could write them in Hollywood. She could write them in Nashville. Now, when she moved back, she bought this house sight unseen. When she moved back, they would go to Nashville. So she would write all her songs, then go to Nashville for 6 months out of the year. And that's when she would pitch her songs directly to the artist. She was kind of known as a tailor-made songwriter. She really, the inspiration for her songs was the artist. And she would try to write a song that she felt like that artist could connect with, which was kind of a different way of doing things back then.
Yeah. We have one question.
Oh, great.
Do y'all have any plans to release her unreleased music, or have you already done so?
That's a great question. In fact, so this is the good news. A lot of people have questions about how come her house looks like this, like she had all these hits. Cindy did not die a pauper. Cindy was a great businesswoman. She did leave her music royalties to the Country Music Hall of Fame, which has resulted in millions of dollars going to the Country Music Hall of Fame since her passing. However, the new music that hasn't been heard is owned by the estate. And so the estate of Cindy Walker is able to determine who can get those first cuts on the never before heard songs. And we're also going to we have an agreement with the family. We're going to be using some of that music as a soundtrack album for the documentary. So when the documentary comes out, we'll also have a soundtrack of new music. And there's definitely some songs in there that I feel like, somebody like Charlie Crockett could definitely make a hit. We have a lot of artists who are interested. I don't want to say it yet because it's not written, in any contracts or agreements yet, but we have a lot of artists that are interested in recording Cindy's music. It's also important to note, though, that just because she left her royalties on the published and recorded songs to the Country Music Hall of Fame, the family does retain the copyrights. However, some of those copyrights are now in the hands of some of the music companies. And so that's also something that we would like to be able to recapture some of those copyrights, help the estate do that. It's important that her catalog be organized and be helping out the causes that are important to the Walker family.
Someone else asked, would the Country Music Hall of Fame be willing to donate some of the royalties to the foundation to help with the preservation of the home?
That's a great question. We asked them that ourselves, and while they are not going to be writing us any checks, we love a blank check. We also haven't gotten any funds from some of the artists that that recorded her music, we would love to have some of those partnerships. But the Country Music Hall of Fame has offered us partnerships. For example, helping us do fundraisers, and also once the documentary is done, screening it there at the Country Music Hall of Fame. So we're definitely grateful for their help in any way. But no funds have been funneled back
Yeah.
our way.
Do you have a release date for the documentary?
We're hoping, I mean, of course, I'm sure some people are tired of hearing as we keep pushing it back, but we really are hoping next year is the 20th anniversary of her passing. And so we feel like that'd be a great rollout of at least starting to screen, first viewings of the film. And we've got some great people that are attached to it. I mean, Vince Gill, Ronnie Dunn, a lot of wonderful female songwriters, have been interviewed for the film, and so we're excited about that, as well as her hometown connections too.
Is the foundation planning on using any historic tax credits to offset the cost of the restoration?
Yes, absolutely. And we've got some great partners, especially our board member, Gregory Smith, is helping us to kind of, because if you remember back to the beginning of this presentation, it said accidental preservationists. We're really relying on historians and preservation experts who have walked this road before to kind of hold our hand during that process. But we have been in contact with the Texas Historical Commission to try to go ahead and figure out those applications and work through that. And our board and everybody who's involved in this, including myself, are 100% volunteers. We all have day jobs, we all have families and do other things. We are hoping that our future will be at some point to have staff to be able to move forward and do this in a more full-time manner. So to answer the question, yes, we definitely will.
Good, good. Okay, well, I'm not seeing any more questions come through. So with that, thank you all so much for joining us today. Thank you, Lindsay, for the presentation again.
Thank
I
you.
want to let you all know that next month's webinar, our board president, Willis Winters, will be giving a presentation about Dallas architect Charles Dilbeck. Willis is the founder of the Dilbeck Conservancy, and he's also writing a book about the architect and his work. So hopefully you can all join us for that on April 16th. And I hope you all have a great rest of your week. Bye.
Bye, y'all. Thank you.